Welcome to this episode of the GymInformer podcast. I'm Chris Gilbert, your host for this episode. And today our guest is Chris Holland, one of the owners at Diamond State Iron in Delaware. I got a chance to work out at their gym just a couple weeks ago. It was a really cool, badass, old school bodybuilding gym. Chris is an equipment nerd like myself. I'm super excited to talk to him about the gym and about the equipment that they've accumulated there in the gym. Before we get started, though, let me take a pause and I'll show you the photos of the gym that I took when I was at the gym. All right, Chris, before we get started talking about the gym, can you tell everybody, what was your path? How did you become a gym owner?
Well, my path to becoming a gym owner was kind of circuitous, right? It really started. So when I was 14, like every other 14-year-old kid, right, I got my working papers, got my first job at McDonald's. When I was 15, I answered an ad in the News Journal and got a job behind the front desk of, at the time, it was Gold's Gym in North Wilmington. Nice. So worked at Gold's Gym behind the front desk. When I was in high school, got my weekend ACE personal training certification. I personal trained all through college. So I started out, I was a biochemistry major. Did that for 3 years, decided that working, mill trials somewhere was not my thing. So I, dropped out of college for a while, continued to personal train, and started working with some post-rehab fitness. Really kind of fell in love with that, went back to school and became a PTA. That entire time, I worked at that same gym. When I finished school, got my PTA license, the first clinic that I practiced at was actually located there at that gym. So I was in and out of that place for nearly 30 years.
Oh, wow.
When I met Michelle, who became my wife, we also worked out there. We kind of became gym tourists. We really sort of fell in love with the industry. We would take day trips, go check out a cool gym. When we took our kids on vacation, it was always, where's the cool place to work out at? So there's always that conversation that you have, right, when you're on the way back. Well, if we had our own gym, this is what we would do. And, we paint the walls black and we play rock music so you always have that kind of ongoing, sort of dialogue. When that gym closed, when Gold's North Wilmington, which later became Total Fitness, when it closed, we looked for that same kind of old school gym, community sort of environment. And we had found that, at least in our area, it had pretty much gone extinct. So we worked out at a few, big box corporate gyms, and really just couldn't find that same sense of community and that same sort of passion that we were used to. So at a certain point, you kind of look at yourself and you say, well, I'm not getting any younger. So what we did is I spent about a year with making gym performers as a hobby. I'd make one performer after another, kind of decide the way that we wanted things to look business-wise. We ended up yanking out all of our savings, dumped out our 401k. We partnered with Heather, who was a friend of ours, who was also interested in doing the same thing. She took all of her savings and we started looking for locations. Right about that time, COVID hit. So we're lucky that we didn't find one at that time. Still continued to sort of do some searching. Not sure if we're familiar with commercial real estate, but a lot of landlords are not very excited to lease to either new businesses or fitness centers because of the high rate of most gyms go out of business within the first 1 or 2 years.
Gyms and restaurants, the most volatile businesses.
So we were told no quite a few times. And believe it or not, we were really sort of getting discouraged with it. And the last location that we looked at, we got a yes immediately from the owner, and that became the first DSI. So we started with a 4,000 square foot space, and we signed the lease. We didn't want to overextend ourselves. So we signed the lease thinking that would last for 3 years. that 4,000 square feet. And within 6 months, we had about 700 members,
Wow.
and needed to get bigger. So we moved across the street. One of the promises that we made to our members was that we were never going to get too crowded with it. You were always going to have, equipment to train on. You weren't going to have to wait. The place wasn't going to get too crowded. We would do one of two things. We would either get bigger, right, or we would cut off membership. So we actually did that. We actually cut off membership for a few months, found a larger space. So now we're about 11,000 square feet, and we're right across the street, essentially, from our old location. And we've been a business for just less than 3 years, and we're just continuing to grow, continuing to add equipment, and we're just still in that constant growth phase.
Nice. Now you're a big equipment nerd, just like me.
I am.
It was fun walking around the gym with you and talking about all the equipment. Like, what was kind of like? Do you guys have a big, huge variety of manufacturers?
We do.
Like, it's not just it's not even as like, not that I haven't been to gyms with like a lot of big variety, but you have, like, for the size of gym you have a lot of different manufacturers.
We do.
So what was kind of your thought process in picking the equipment that you picked?
So we all know that some manufacturers in general are better than others, right? But even the best brand out there, if you look at Panada, let's say, not saying they're the best, but they're certainly one of them. Even brands like Panada have hits and misses, right? There are some pieces that are absolutely fantastic, and some that are just the worst things you've ever got on. And being an equipment nerd, you also know that there are certain pieces, like, for instance, the Flex ham tractor, right, that haven't been produced for 30 years, that are still to this day considered unmatched in terms of being the best at what they do. And that's what we wanted to offer our folks, whether it was something that just came out. So I know we bought the new Tech M Torture wide chest. We bought it right off the floor at the Olympia. So whether it's just the most current pieces, or whether it was a piece that came out 30 years ago, we wanted to do our best to pick up the very best of whatever it was that we were looking for. Again, having limited space, you can only have a certain number of options for any given piece. So you want to try and collect the best that you possibly can. Now, when we first started, obviously budget was a big deal for us, so we weren't really able to do that. So I know you saw we still have a lot of Relentless pieces, right? Well, Tony that owns that company, and he owns Fusion Fitness Centers, is a friend of ours. So when we first started, he was able to come to us and say, "Hey, listen, I know you guys are working on a limited budget. I know you need a lot of equipment. Give me a list of what you need, and we'll make it work with it." And he did that. So, we started with a lot of that stuff, and some of it's turned out to be fantastic and held up very well. Other pieces that we've kind of swapped out. So we're always on the lookout to upgrade what we currently have and improve our offerings for our members with it. So we talked about travel. Michelle and I have traveled as far north as Maine on the East Coast, and as far south for our ham tractors, as a matter of fact, is Miami. And about as far west as Chicago, picking up pieces and bringing them back into the gym. So we've had some adventures with it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And it was super cool. I love when gyms have a good mix of like old school and new school. And you definitely had some really cool old school pieces in there. And then you definitely had, like, you had some new tech, and you had some Atlantis and some of the newer pieces too. It was very cool.
Yep. We've got some newer stuff. You mentioned new tech, Atlantis. Obviously, Arsenal Strength has become a staple. I know you saw we have the GymInformer shoulder press, and
I forgot about the GymInformer piece.
So. But we've got some old stuff, and I always tell so we actually encourage our members. One of our big things is community, and we try and introduce our members to the broader fitness community, right? So we encourage them to actually go check out other gyms, and we, tell them to look for, various gym owners that we have good relationships with. And one of the pieces of advice I always tell them is, if you walk into a gym and it's got a variety of equipment like DSI, right? And there's something over in the corner and it looks like it's 50 years old, before you leave, try that piece, because it's there for a reason,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's like when I go to a new gym, I try not to pre-plan what I'm going to work that day, because I like to walk through the gym and then like, okay, I got to hit that piece. Yeah.
You can't have a plan. Right.
No. Like I went to a gym the other day, and it happened to be chest and glute day all of a sudden.
Yeah. There you go.
they had the biggest glute section of any gym I've ever been in. I'm like, it's chest day, but I gotta hit those glute pieces. So
yeah, I'll walk.
yeah,
I will walk into a gym. I'll train a body part, but then I just sort of wander the gym, and anything that I haven't, that I've never seen, or any pieces that are interesting, I'll jump on. Oh, we're gonna do a few work sets of that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's cool like that, and you guys have some pretty cool pieces. The atmosphere in the gym, it's got that, like, it's not a dirty gym, but it's got that gritty kind of old school vibe. Is that what you guys were going for?
So yes, very much so. And there's also the philosophy that's worked pretty well with us. Again, we are in a stage of constant growth, and we're a new gym. So we are more apt to spend our money on a piece of equipment or something that's going to improve our members' experience and our members' workout than we are a piece of fluff or something that's purely aesthetic in the gym, right? And not to say that the gym isn't aesthetic, right? But we are an equipment gym, right? We want you to be able to come in and work out on the best stuff. So that kind of lends itself, you can tell as you walk around that, there's not a whole lot of artwork on the walls, right? We're not going to spend a couple of $1,000s on a mural. That's just not what we do. So yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was still cool. I mean, you had the blacked out walls and, and it still felt like that old school vibe. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And I love that it was organized by body part. I'm always excited anytime like people pay attention to that. So we talked a lot about like what you guys are doing really well, and obviously getting to the number of memberships that you have, and already having grown the gym in less than 3 years to double the size that it was at the beginning. You guys are doing a lot of stuff pretty well. Is there anything that you feel like you should be doing better, or you'd like to be doing better as a gym owner?
Well, so eventually, we do want to start paying a little bit more attention to fit and finish, and obviously that stuff's going to come, right? But it's secondary on the priority list. So yeah, making the gym prettier is something that we want to do. Right now, we're working on some other services. So, for instance, one of the things that has become really big is offering telemed. So you've got a lot of these gyms that have med spas. They offer telemed. You've got a lot of folks who are interested in hormone replacement, in medical weight loss, and just wellness services. So we want we want to be more than just a place to go and lift weights, right? Folks are becoming more progressive and more health conscious, so that's something that we are working towards. We do already have an outpatient PT clinic that's operational in the fitness center. We do offer massage and some of those other services. So we want to expand some of that stuff. So we're actively working towards that. And of course, we're always on the lookout for more and better equipment. As a matter of fact, when we finish our podcast, what I'm going to do is leave and pick up a truck. Tomorrow morning, we are going to pick up an old school Nebula Smith machine from New York City. Yeah, and then on the way back, we're stopping. We managed to find, and then not that there's anything wrong with our standard good old Life Fitness pec deck rear delt, but we were able to get our hands on the Holy Grail, the Body Masters 504.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, we're going to pick that up on the way back. So we'll be swapping a couple of pieces out. And yeah, I mean, continue to improve and continue to kind of be who we are with it. We've got some community events coming up. I'm not sure if I told you that we sponsor an armored combat team.
No.
So I'm not sure if you've ever seen at the Arnold, the guys that are dressed up like knights, right? They're in their armor and they're actually doing full contact fighting. But we sponsor one of those teams, and we've got an event coming up where we've got some fighters coming in internationally, and we have a whole thing going on for that. So we're going to work on doing some of that promoting and expand some of that stuff. We're planning another powerlifting meet here. So we've had 3 so far here at the gym, and we're planning another one. So we're going to do some planning there. And yeah, we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, and you've got that whole like side powerlifting section. So that's very cool.
At the pit.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like when you have like multiple different communities going on in the same gym, and they kind of like they kind of build upon each other, which is great.
They do. So our powerlifters are really the heart and soul of the gym. When we first started again in that 4,000 square foot space, I at the time was pretty well versed on bodybuilding, but not powerlifting. And we had a guy walk in. He was a personal trainer and powerlifting coach, and he looked around and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in having? I've got some powerlifters. Right now, we're working out at a commercial gym, and would you be interested in having a powerlifting program here?" And I looked around and I said, "Well, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of space. We don't have really a lot of specialty powerlifting equipment. But if you guys think you can make it work, yeah, absolutely." So way back when, we had a bunch of guys squatting 600 plus pounds on a combination Smith machine half rack.
Wow.
And our first deadlift platform was just kind of sitting in the middle of the gym. So you'd have these guys pulling 700 pounds, right, in a 4,000 square foot gym with a bunch of regular gym folks sort of standing around, right? And it became a sort of a thing that was a motivator, right?
Right.
You're there, you're a kid just trying to bench one plate, right? And there's a guy next to you. Not only did you just see him pull 700 pounds, but now he's cheering for you when you're going for that one rep max, right? So those guys kind of became the heart and soul of the gym. And we have one of our things that we preach is community. So you saw the pit. Everyone kind of pays attention to what's going on in there. And when someone's going for a big lift, you'll see the entire gym stop and turn around and look. And when they're going for it, everyone cheers. And that radiates, right? That kind of energy with it. You've got, girl going for a first, full pull up. Everyone will start cheering, right? And that's
awesome.
And that kind of stuff, it spreads. So that particular group of powerlifters has really, they've really added a lot to the gym community. And so when we moved and we got larger, we wanted to give them the stuff they needed to continue to progress. So we have a good group of folks that just qualified for nationals. So they'll be heading out and we'll be supporting them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And you got a monolift over there and everything, right?
We do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're looking for someplace to really get serious about powerlifting in Delaware area, like Diamond State's a pretty good spot. So you guys have already expanded once. Mm-hmm. You're still growing, still adding members all the time. I'm assuming you still have that same thought process that you never want the gym to get too crowded. Right. So what is the future of Diamond State? Like, are you guys happy with where you are for now? Or are you at some point thinking maybe you want like a 20,000 square foot gym? Will there ever be a second Diamond State? Like, what's the future for Diamond State?
So I'll go back to my boss when I worked at Gold's Gym. His name was Jimmy. And I've kept in contact with him since I was 14 years old. And he was the general manager, had been a general manager of a gym for something like 40 years. Wow. I said, "Jimmy, I'm thinking about opening a gym. And, do you have any advice for me?" And he said, "Well, you shouldn't. It's not a good idea." All right. I said, "No, Jimmy, I'm serious. Like, it's really something that we want to do." And he said, "Well, if you want to get rich, this isn't the industry for you. It's not the thing to do, right? But if you really, really want to open a gym, then you absolutely should." The goal of being a gym owner, in my opinion, isn't to get rich. I have no desire to own 3-4 gyms. But what we do want is to have the best facility that we possibly can have, right? It's great if you get to supersize your value meals every once in a while, right? You want to be able to make ends meet as
right.
But we really have no plans on a second location. We want to continue to improve this one. Now, if that means go larger and get more space, then we'll absolutely do that. But if you were to say, well, is your goal a 30,000 square foot space or 40,000 square foot space? Well, it's as big as we need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. There are quite a few gym owners I've spoken to that never want a second gym, like right down to Steve Weinberger. He's like, Bevs is it. I never want a second Bevs. Like, it's one of the most popular gyms in the world, and he never wants a second one. He's just like, this is my spot.
Well, you couldn't. How do you make a second Bevs?
Right. Yeah. But then you got guys like Leo who's already announced Gym 5. So
yeah, right.
So
have you? I know you have been to a few gyms in the area. Have you been down to Exile?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how can you duplicate that? Or the Madhouse? How do you duplicate the Madhouse? There's no way Mark could ever recreate Madhouse. I mean, right.
Yeah. I mean, he could make 2 madhouses that are half the size of that one, and
Right.
they'd still have more
And they'd
equipment
still be two of the best gyms in the world.
right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, as a matter of fact, when you ask what our goal would be ultimately, it would be to be mentioned in the same conversation as some of those other
Yeah,
gyms.
that would be.
That's our
I mean,
goal.
most gym owners would love to be mentioned in the same space
Mhm.
as those guys. Those guys are like legends.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean that's super cool, and I love the fact that you want to just like make your gym the best it can possibly be, and not try to like divide your attentions and things like that. I think that's
Mhm.
a pretty solid like plan, really.
And I think if you do that and you offer someone, a great product, then you're gonna be successful secondary to that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you're not dividing your attention. I mean, I think there are some advantages to owning multiple locations. I've talked to some guys who have multiple locations, but I think there's also some real advantages to putting all of your effort into one spot.
Mhm. Yeah, and we
So
train here ourselves. All the owners, you'll see us working out here every day, right alongside of our members. We're working out we're spotting. So we train here too. So it's also partially selfish. I want to work out on the best stuff that I can bring in under one roof as well.
yeah, you were working out there the day I was there. So
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I
anybody who
think it was
questions,
that day.
I saw him working out there. So one of the questions we always ask, you mentioned advice you'd gotten from your old general manager. That
Mhm.
brings us kind of like to one of the questions I always ask towards the end of the podcast is, now that you've been open for a few years, you guys have become pretty successful. Do you have any advice for someone who's thinking about owning a gym or wants to open a gym?
Well, so first do your research. Get out there, check out other gyms, become a gym tourist for a while. See what other gyms, what other folks have going on, and kind of use that as sort of a buffet for what you want to do in your own location. And that's not saying that you want to carbon copy things, right? But if let's say you see a shake bar and this gym's got that, you really like that, right? They spent a lot of time on their retail and that kind of thing. You like it. You mentioned having the gym divided into body part areas, right? Well, I'm sure you remember if you were to go back, 20, 25 years, you didn't see that as much, right? You had your
Right.
circuit area, right? Where all
Mhm.
your circuit machines were. And then you had the free weight area where all the free weight machines are, and things weren't really separated per body part. So you
And
may
that still
see
happens
a
a fair amount.
particular configuration or layout that you say, hey, I want to do that, right? Aesthetics, you may go into a gym that's got, really neat wall art, or they've got something else going on. You sent me, as a matter of fact, the gym in Baltimore that we are actually planning on checking out this weekend. You really that might resonate with you. So you want to get an idea, sort of a blueprint of what your gym should look like, and then do what I did. Making a pro forma, making that business plan a hobby. Do multiple ones, and for different types of fitness centers and different types of environments, what have you, until you settle on, okay, I think this is what's going to work for me, and then go from there.
No,
You
yeah,
know,
definitely.
um,
Yeah, that was a great
Again,
advice.
the same advice my general manager gave me. If it's you want to get rich, it's probably not the industry for you. But if you really really love the gym community, you really love the industry, you really love being in that environment, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and most of the gym owners I've met and had on the podcast, their true passion is really more about helping people and
Mhm.
people like on their fitness journey and helping them like providing a place that is really a community, which is
Yes.
awesome. I love that.
And it's, to be honest, helping. So if this was just about fitness, right, I wouldn't have fallen in love with it. But a gym is a lot more than that. There are folks
Oh,
here
100%.
fighting addiction. There are folks here, fighting depression. There are folks here,
Mhm.
we have gym members that are literally they finish their chemo treatment, then they come and work out, right, to try and keep their energy levels up.
Mhm.
There's a lot more to it, especially in this type of environment that you're not going to see at your big box, gyms. You're not, no one's going to Planet Fitness for the camaraderie, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
a ultimately
Yeah.
you're contributing a lot more to folks than just a place to build muscles or look good at their wedding. That too, but there's a lot more to it. At least there
Oh
should be.
no, I mean, I have a pretty nice home gym, and I keep going to the gym just because I like being around my gym community.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
if you're not there, like you just miss it.
And this is what I will tell folks. You have your home gym, right? Or I'm sure you've worked out at plenty of hotel gyms or big box gyms. You can get it done anywhere with a minimal amount of equipment, right? But let's say it's the end of a hard work day and you're just not in the mood. You've had a bad day. You barely drag yourself into the gym. Most big box gyms are not going to motivate you when you get there, right? You're going to pretty much
100%.
have that same mindset. You walk in, you get on a machine, you go through the motions. And I call those fitness centers, right? But a real gym, you walk in and you might be in the worst mood, but you walk in and 2 or 3 people say, "Hey, what's up?" And they give you a fist bump, and someone wants to know what you're training. You're training chest? I'm training chest too. Jump in with me, right? You're able to push each other, and dragging yourself in and walking through those doors may absolutely turn your day around, and that's not something that I take lightly with it. And it's something that really made me fall in love with the industry and the community. And that's what we want to offer here, and you can't do that in a 50,000 square foot corporate facility. It just doesn't work.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not that they even try to. So
yeah, no, not at all. No, absolutely not. It's not a part of the business plan.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming. I didn't have any other questions. Is there anything else you wanted to tell everyone about Diamond State or anything else you wanted to let them know about?
No, just that, if you're in the area, you want a fantastic community and great gym to work out at, please stop by Diamond State Iron.
So thank you, Chris. I appreciate you taking the time to coming on with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully soon.
Awesome.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.